Hey, welcome to the Corberlang channel. Today's topic, collecting how you want. That's right. 'Cause this is my show. I'm no expert, I'm more of a fan than an expert, but there's different areas to collecting, especially with GIJoe. The one I prefer the most is mint on card, which is what you're looking at now. The opposite to that would be collecting loose. When it comes to the vehicles, you can collect it mint in sealed box or just loose. When it comes to collecting vintage toys, collecting loose seems to be the most common and the most popular. But when it comes to GIJoe, especially with such beautiful artwork, it just doesn't cut it. If you really like the GIJoe artwork, you do have choices and you can get into international collecting. And foreign GIJoe is just as fun collecting loose. If you like collecting GIJoe loose, you can get into mail-aways, foreign figures, GIJoe Collectors Club, and convention exclusives. And if you still haven't gotten your fix, you can go down endless rabbit holes of bootlegs and knockoffs. One last thing that I'd like to mention are all the collectibles from GIJoe besides the regular toy line. And this is all vintage. If we get into modern, we can repeat the exact same things. We have loose, mint, mint in sealed box, mint on card. In this video, I'll be going through vintage GIJoe, those lost years of GIJoe as quickly as I can because they weren't so popular, as well as modern GIJoe starting in 2007. Because I like the action figures the most, mint on card or carded GIJoes are my absolute favorite. But before we get to that, I'd like to share some tips that I've learned over the years from collecting GIJoe. Welcome to the tips portion of the video. I'm going to share with you my 3 most valuable tips that I've learned over the years. Number 1 is always buy lots when you can. I don't mean buy lots and lots of GIJoe, but buy bundles where there's more than one Joe. You can get it for a deal, sell the ones that you don't have, or trade, keep the ones you do. Tip number 2, never let them see you coming. Never seem too excited about a figure. If they know you really want it, it kind of cuts into your bargaining power. If you seem a little less interested, maybe they'll give it to you for a little cheaper. And rule number 3, the most important rule that's carried me through this hobby, is have fun. That's it. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Just make sure you have fun. Collect what you like. Alright, now let's get back to the main video. When it comes to collecting GIJoe MOCs, or carded GIJoe, there's a few things you need to know. First of all, if your MOC is in good enough condition, consider having it graded by either CAS or AFA, and they will beautifully display it in an acrylic case. Grading your Joe is a great way to authenticate what you actually have. The second thing you need to know when collecting mint on card is there are a few exceptions to that. I collect something called resealed. It's a cheaper way to collect a carded Joe, where it's been opened or pried back, and then the Joe's been reinserted, it's been closed and then sealed shut. This is a reseal. Another exception is where they've sliced the plastic and pulled the figure out. Here's an example. And then you put the figure back in and it appears like an MOC, displays like an MOC, but a whole lot cheaper. It's worth mentioning if you're trying to save a few bucks collecting carded Joes, that you can also get ones with a broken O-ring. I have a couple examples here. One of them sits very nicely, so it's well worth the price. The second one not so nice, but still somewhat together. MOCs come punched or unpunched. Also take note that the bubble can turn yellow from overexposure from the sun, which can reduce the price. And last of all, be sure to check out MOCs from other countries. There's beautiful carded GIJoe from everywhere. Collecting GIJoe boxes. If you love the artwork of GIJoe, Well, this section's for you. You can collect these things mint and sealed box. Sometimes you find boxes that have been opened but with sealed contents, which is almost just as good. You can collect just the boxes, which you can get for a nice price, and they display nicely behind the actual vehicle. Although this may depreciate the value a little bit, some people flatten the boxes due to storage. But any way you collect G.I. Joe boxes, it doesn't matter. It's a wonderful addition to any G.I. Joe collection. Okay, here we are at the final part of this section, collecting loose. The one thing that I did want to mention that I think is important is finding these figures complete. Little weapons can be hard to find and very expensive, and a lot more affordable if you get them with the figure in the first place. Which goes back to buying lots. Sometimes you could buy lots of weapons, lots of different action figures, and over time you eventually complete what you need to. Besides the figure being complete, other things you need to check are the paint, the joints, the O-ring, and even the screw. If the screw is rusty, it's hard to take the figure apart and repair the O-ring. A way to check the joints is to hold the figure and kind of shake it from the top, and if the knees wiggle, then you know the joints are really loose. But that can be repaired. There's a secret with clear nail polish, a drop behind each knee, which could possibly lower the value of the figure. Vintage G.I. Joe is rare, so you do the best you can. A lot of collectors just upgrade as they go. Welcome to part 2, what I like to call the lost years of G.I. Joe. Everybody enjoyed the 82 to 94 ARAH, and the modern G.I. Joe, the 25th anniversary in 2007, from then on has been pretty good. But in between, it was just kind of hit and miss. For me personally, my advice is just to cherry pick the ones that you like. I enjoy O-rings, so I've found many O-rings throughout those years. Convention exclusives, Toys R Us exclusives. I'll try to get through this as fast as possible, but besides the O-ring, there were many attempts to relaunch G.I. Joe in different formats, which were pretty bad in my opinion. If you'd like to close your eyes through the next part, or just skip ahead, I don't blame you. I've made some mistakes in G.I. Joe collecting, and some of these are them. Okay, starting it off with 95, we have Sergeant Savage, slightly larger riveted figure. G.I. Joe Extreme, kind of like a He-Man looking figure. There's some of the other characters. Next we have G.I. Joe vs. Cobra. They came with the DVD. Here is Valor vs. Venom, ugly figures. G.I. Joe Manimals, kind of childish but neat. And here's one of the good ones, G.I. Joe Toys R Us exclusive. If you want to learn more about O-ring figures from these years, check out my video expanding your O-ring collection. Here's the thumbnail. Alright, here you are at the final part. Collecting modern G.I. Joe. If you made it this far, there's something wrong with you, seriously. But that's alright, there's something wrong with me too. Collecting modern G.I. Joe, there's not much different about this than the other categories, except I find there's a lot of tiny parts like ninja stars and daggers, so it's best to keep modern G.I. Joe sealed in the box. The MOCs look retro or vintage. The boxes are clear in the front, so they display nicely and you can see the vehicle inside. You can't collect G.I. Joe and not acknowledge these modern MOCs. They come out in 2007 with these 25th anniversary. And when these things hit the shelf, they got me right back into G.I. Joe. In Canada, we only got two. In Canada, we only got two different covers at first, before they actually started, you know, giving us our own cover, but there was a phase in between where they ran out, so they were making them like that. I think I have another one. I don't know where he is. But yeah, these things are wonderful. Beautiful. It's the first time we'd seen that card art since we were kids. So everybody started collecting them. This is an amazing line to collect because the vehicles interchange with vintage. And they're almost identical, the molds. They just don't have the, you know, like the backpack holes. These even, they did club exclusives. Here's a cool one. There's so many of these. I don't want to get rid of these. These are awesome. There's another club exclusive. I'm just flying through these, but you can see why people collect these. These are beautiful cards to collect. I prefer these to classified just because of the card art and the vehicle scale. There's Ripper. Some of the card art is slightly different than the original, and some of it looks almost bang on. There's a Pentor. That's a cool one. Airtight. But yeah, these are beautiful. We have these figure packs too. Desert and Arctic. Yeah, they did lots. They did some cartoon ones too. What else do I got? There's one of my faves. And I believe, yeah, Zartan comes with a little swamp skier, but on card. That's pretty neat. Here we have some various modern figures. Here's some more here, right up to recent. Here we have one from the Classified series. This is Cobra Snake Supreme. Here we have some various Hiss tanks that are modern. This is a nice line, G.I. Joe 50. It was actually discontinued in Canada for being too violent. Alright, well thanks for making it this far. As a thank you, I'd like to give you a couple more of my tips. The first one is, only start lines that you can finish. I never took this advice when I started collecting and I regret it. I ran out of space because of it. The second tip that I'd like to give you is get into Facebook groups. That way you can get some good prices on Joes rather than paying eBay prices. Well, that concludes the video. I hope you found it useful. We'll see you next time. Very cool way to collect vintage G.I. Joe are these Hasbro Directs. Some people call them redbacks because the file card, the back of it is red. But very cool. They're not just mail-away exclusives. They were regular figures as well. Another thing I have here is vehicle drivers. They're fun to collect sealed because they didn't come carded. I just acquired this one from the Sonic Boom tank. And these guys are mail-aways because they came carded originally. And there's another vehicle driver.